Okay, so now we are starting the brand new topic. How do we solve quadratic equations? So everything we did in factoring is carrying over, which is why it's so important that you understand factoring. I went very slowly, but if you need help, you need to contact me and I will try to figure something out to help you. Okay. If I told you the product of two numbers is zero, could you tell me anything about the two numbers? So, for instance, if A times B is equal to zero, what do you know about A or B? Or both? Okay, very good. Either A equals zero and or B equals zero. In order for the product of two numbers to multiply to zero, one of those numbers has to be zero, and that's what we use to solve all quadratic equations. Zero product property. If an expression is equal to zero, we know that at least one factor must be equal to zero. So here's what it would look like in this case of a factored equation. So after you have your two binomial factors like this, where it says that x minus 3 times x plus 10 equals 0, you know that either x minus 3 is equal to 0 or x plus 10 is equal to 0. So the way that we show work to solve the quadratic equation is we usually do what we call tee it up. We draw a line and we set each factor equal to 0. So if the first factor was equal to 0, that would mean that x minus 3 has to equal 0. And if I add 3 to both sides, I solve that x must be equal to 3. If x equals 3, then that first factor would be equal to 0. Or the second factor could equal to 0, x plus 10. So here I could minus 10 on both sides, which would give me that x is equal to negative 10. So when you just have x minus a number, the solution is going to be the positive value of that number. When it's just x plus a number, the solution is going to be the negative value of that number. Okay, so that's how we solve. Steps to solving factorable quadratic equations. Now let's first define what a quadratic equation is. So before these, we were always solving linear equations, which were first degree equations. There were no exponents. Quadratic equations, I'm going to define right here, are second degree equations. So linear equations are first degree equations. Quadratic equations are second degree equations because the largest exponent in the equation is 2. So they're usually expressed like this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's if it's a trinomial, you'll have 3 terms. Okay, and the coefficient of the x squared term, which is your quadratic term, is considered a. Then you have your linear term, we call it, because it's the first degree term. The coefficient of that term is b, and then the constant is c. Now a cannot equal 0. Shh.